thing is, I do believe there was talk about these things. I believe if we study history, the Confederates were able to shoot pterodactyls, back in the Civil War, and they spread these things out. Anybody can look it up online.
Google it
They
yourself.
spread these things out, and this is a historical fact. So, they spread this thing out, and it's got a huge winglet. It was a pterodactyl they shot. So, of course, these things have been around. Now, they went extinct, obviously, slowly, but surely. And so...
What I'm saying is Jesus wrote a dinosaur to work. That's history. It's in the Bible. How to Train Your Dragon.
Historical facts.
And if you don't believe it, do your own research. Pull up Google. You'll find the picture, I promise.
Oh my God.
Thank you, John Gleason, Godless engineer, for gifting me this beautiful moment. Y'all remember when they tried to cancel Steven Spielberg for posing with an animatronic triceratops animal rights activist?
Back it up.
Hit it from the back.
Cloaca. Historical facts.
Eat my ass, BP. You're down here bailing on the rest of us because you don't want to process your grief and shame like a normal person by drinking and mistreating strangers.
No, Rick. It is you who must nibble my cloaca, or bird asshole.
Everyone knows what a cloaca is.
back in the Civil War, and they spread these things out. Anybody can look it up online. They spread these things out, and this is a historical fact. So, they spread this thing out, and it's got a huge winglet. It was a pterodactyl they shot. So, of course, these things have been around. Now, they went extinct, obviously, slowly, but surely. And so...
Paul Bunyan was sharing some Funyuns with his pet velociraptor.
Whoa.
Oh, you thought it was an ox? Roll back the clock. Let me knock the socks off. Historical facts.
I didn't cut out. You heard me. You a pervert or something? Okay.
What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? I'm the Godless engineer, and I critically analyze the apologist claims to give you the best arguments and information so that you can stand up and use your voice. Tonight, we're going to be taking a look at an interview with James McGrath. James McGrath is a scholar who specializes in the study of the Bible. I can't recall right off the top of my head if he's just a biblical scholar, a New Testament scholar, but he's a scholar in that field. And recently it was brought up to him the idea of Paul mentioning that Eden or paradise is in the third heaven, and that Paul knew somebody who was actually taken up to the third heaven. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to look at the evidence that supports this claim and talk about why this is not integral, but is part of the mythicist arguments. So if you want to fuck around and find out how wrong James McGrath is on this very simple argument, then please stay tuned. Here in a second. Still using the old intro for the live streams. I got to get that changed. But anyways, thank you, heathens, for joining me here tonight. As you'll notice, I'm being a lazy ass and I'm sitting down. But we're just gonna get through this video tonight. I do have some comments to go over, although Bro Cephas is already passed out asleep, so he won't be here tonight, but he will be here next weekend. So it's because you fed him good. Yeah, I agree. We had some boneless wings earlier. We didn't stuff our mouths full of cheeseburgers, but, we had boneless wings. But anyways, so if you're new to the stream tonight, you may not know, but we use any of the proceeds that we make off of here, a portion of that goes to some kind of charity each month, and we're not exactly sure what charity we're going to be funding this month. Usually it's some kind of charity for like trans rights or for women's reproductive rights, or autism awareness. That seems perfect. Yes. Yes. So this month is autism awareness. So we will be giving to a charity centered around that, but it's not Autism Speaks. What we do here at Godless Engineers, we vet any charities through Charity Navigator. We go through there and we find ones that have high ratings where our money will most likely be applied to actual services or any needs that actually service that community. So I can't remember what's our go-to autism awareness. Yeah, we've got it recorded from last year, so we will definitely let y'all know. But we will be donating to a good autism charity. If y'all have any ideas about a good autism charity that we can look up, please don't hesitate to either put it in the comments or in the live chat right now. We'd really love to hear y'all's ideas. So we're going to be doing that this month, and that would include any member chats. Like you saw Daniel in the chat there just a second ago, which I'm about to read. Those chats, super thanks. Just watching our videos helps. Becoming a Skeptic Mafia member also helps. You get a lot of great perks with that, which I believe sometime tomorrow we have a Mafioso hangout. It's a little late in the month, and I think I actually missed last month, but I think that we're gonna have a hangout tomorrow afternoon. Great perks. Well, also I've been struggling to get the Mafia podcast up. So I've been having a lot of trouble with Adobe After Effects, which is what I use to render it. So I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to change my strategy a little bit and render it as just a single image that's up there that gives you all the information about the episode, and then not have, because normally we have animated little circles that pulse whenever we talk, but I think we're gonna have to forego that for the time being because Adobe After Effects is just simply not working for me. I don't know what happened, but it just stopped working. They probably added a feature that fucked me over, but in any case, so any of that helps us donate to good charities. This month it'll be some kind of autism charity that helps out people in that community. So if you want to help us do that, consider sending in a super chat or doing a member chat like Daniel M just did, who says, David says good night. His grandpa isn't doing well. He is expected to make it through the night. Oh man, I'm so sorry there, Daniel, to hear about that. You can always hit me up and we can talk about it if you want to. But I really hate that for you, man. Tell David that I said good night, and I hope he has a good night tonight. But anyways, so tonight we do have James McGrath coming on to showcase his ignorance of the paradise that exists in the third heaven to first century Christians. We're going to be looking at a number of sources for that. We're going to be looking at actual source material. We're also going to be seeing, I'll also discuss how accepted this notion is in the academic community. So this is a mainstream position in the academic community. But before that, we have some comments to get through. Are y'all ready for comments?
I'm ready for comments.
Yeah, I didn't have any Today I Learns, so, or otherwise we go through Today I Learns. Y'all don't mind me right now. Okay. And if you're wondering what I'm drinking tonight, it's just Jameson and Diet Coke. Huh? Yeah, you made it good. Yeah. All right, y'all ready? I know I'm ready. Let's get to this shit. Oh, the Today I Learned. I gotta sing Today I Learned, and then I'll sing the comment song. So hold on. Today I read some really dumb fucking comments. Woo! Okay, now it's the everybody loves comments of the day. Comments of the day. Prepare to facepalm yourself in the next week. Haha, I'm getting pretty good at that shit. All right, so first up tonight we have answering. Well, this is on my YouTube short, which for some reason the YouTube shorts get really popular as long as you post some vacuous sort of response to a dumb Christian or just religious question. Apparently that really piques the algorithm's interest. But anyways, so PK here says, a painting has a painter, a building has a builder. Atheist logic. Everything came from nothing. Now, this is a common theme that I've noticed here lately, not just in the religious community, but misrepresenting your opponent's position. And that's exactly what this is doing. That's not our position. That's never been our position. They incorrectly reference a complex scientific topic, being the inflation of the universe, and because they're so ignorant of the topic, they regurgitate stupid shit they've heard apologists say. And that's exactly what this is. So, this is pretty much trickle-down idiocy here, because it starts with people like Frank Turek, William Lane Craig, J. Warner Wallace, who else? Any other apologist that's popular, Cameron Bertuzzi, all of them at the top, and then all of the fucking shit trickles down and it comes out of people's mouth like this. We got Quentin Van Boeven, who's got a tithe. He's sending in his weekly tithe. Quentin says, sending in my weekly tithe. Can't wait to hear what this guy has to say tonight. I'm sure it's dumb. Well, before we get into what James McGrath says, I will present you with what we're talking about specifically. So, you guys will go into it with the same kind of...
This person just bought an express ticket to hell!
He got a ticket to hell. So we will be going over that prior to it so that you guys can start out like kind of understanding what the conversation is. And then we'll get into some more of the finer details. All right. So next up, kind of a long comment here, but we'll tackle it a little bit at a time. Glaciated Luxray on another short says, when these avid atheists say they don't believe in Christianity due to a lack of evidence, I don't believe them. Oh, sure. Just forego everything that we fucking tell you. Don't listen to us at all, because that's how you become an active fucking listener in a discussion. Way to go. That's sure not to piss somebody off immediately. Anyways, this is how you recognize a bad faith conversationalist, is that they're going to forego whatever in the fuck you say for their own version of reality. If you find a motherfucker out there that is presenting their own version of reality and presenting it as if that's the truth, then you know that they're a bad faith actor. Anyways, moving on. They have so much passion. Sorry, wrong voice. Gotta try to act like Persephus with this. They have so much passion about disproving the existence of something they don't believe exists and go around making claims like God is less moral than them that I don't believe that it's all about the facts. Well, I feel like you could do a very analytical case. Like you can analyze my case for being more moral than God. And it's quite fucking simple the way that I see it, because God directly commanded the Israelites to kill small children, small defenseless children, for no reason at all. But not only them, but also any woman that had known a man or wasn't a virgin, as well as all of the men, including the young men, the children, the teenagers, kill all of them, but take the young girls that are virgins as plunder. Now, I can say that I'm more moral than your God, the Yahweh. I'm more moral than Yahweh, because in no universe could I ever see myself fucking commanding that, because it's abhorrent. And because that's part of my moral foundation, yes, I think that it's pretty fucking clear that I'm more moral than Yahweh. So I feel like that's fairly substantiated. If it were just a matter of facts, these people wouldn't be so avid about it, and it wouldn't seem to have a hatred for God or Christians. Okay, I don't have a hatred for God or Christians. For one thing, God has to exist first in order for me to hate him. So I don't hate Christians. Or I don't hate God, but I also don't hate Christians. I hate dumb shit that Christians say on occasion, and there are very few people that I would classify as I have a deep hatred for, and it's not just simply because they're Christian or because they believe in God. Are you okay over there?
Yeah, sorry, I'm having
A nosebleed? You all right? No?
I'm just having a moment.
Okay. I just wanted to check because it seemed like you were having a moment.
Well, just my nose is itching really bad,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like I have to sneeze and it won't stop.
I know. I hate that. I'm sorry. You want me to come tickle your nose hairs?
I do not have nose hairs.
No. I'm not saying like visible nose hairs, but like we all have little hairs up there in our nose, and if you tickle them, because like you can fashion a napkin into like a little spear kind of, and then you can sort of like mess around. Yeah, tickle. Yeah, that's all I was saying. I didn't say that like you're fucking, like a walrus over there. We've all got nose hairs. We just trim them. Anyways, so there are very few Christians out there that I don't like or hate, or I could classify as hating because of their actions, not because they're simply Christian. So, and it's definitely because of the facts surrounding God. Okay, so that's just not true. Like the logic here is just incoherent and unsound, is what it is, and it's not valid logic either. Like it's a non sequitur, is what it amounts to, if we're speaking technically here. So continuing, they would just believe it to be untrue. I mean, I do, but I also hate it when misinformation is spread about, and when people accuse me of thinking differently than I'm fucking telling you. Let's see. Even when I was an agnostic, I didn't believe Christianity to be true, but I also didn't hate God or Christians. Okay, I'm right there with you. I don't hate God or Christians, so where the fuck are we now? I didn't even hate Christianity. I mean, I don't hate Christianity. I think Christianity's wrong. I think it can be toxic and abusive, but it doesn't mean, like, I don't know what it means to hate Christianity. I mean, I could see how some people out there might hate Christianity because of how people subjected them to the faith. But, and I'm not trying to, like, tell anybody how to feel or anything about it, but I feel like hating Christianity is really just hating how Christianity was forced on you, and that takes some kind of sentient being or some intelligence that's forcing that on you. So that's just how I would see it, but I can totally see somebody, I guess, hating Christianity for those reasons specifically. I believe it lacked evidence, but I didn't get emotionally invested in it. I mean, I'm not emotionally invested in Christianity or God, but I am emotionally invested in how these fuckers affect our reality and our communities. So, yeah, I'm more emotional about those things than I am about Christianity just simply fucking existing. Oh yeah, and like Christians themselves taking away the rights of other people, like women, LGBTQ plus community, children, because like it's the fascist Christo-fascists over there that are like, well, we got to protect the children from these drag queens out here.
So let's let 12 adults marry 12-year-old girls.
Yeah, we got to protect the children, but also 12-year-olds should be able to date 25-year-olds and eventually marry them as long as their parents agree. Also, I get it, guns are the number one killer of children in America, but you know what? Maybe we just need more guns at this situation. I mean, isn't that what the fire trucks do? They come in and they just spray gasoline on a house fire. That's how they put it out.
They spray fire on fire and it helps.
Yeah, I'm really channeling Brocephus tonight. Deus Ex Tomato says religion is just Stockholm Syndrome with extra steps. Honestly, they keep going on about how God is going to be mad, God's going to do this, do that. I mean, I can definitely see how you might draw parallels from Stockholm Syndrome to how some Christians employ Christianity, especially with how toxic the religion is, like how what's the word I'm looking for? I'm thinking coupled, but that's not what it is. It's a codependency. It's a toxic codependent relationship. And so it definitely, I could see how it resembles Stockholm Syndrome, depending on how it's implemented. But I think that's the key part there is how is it implemented? Anyway, thank you for your member chat there, Deus Ex Tomato. Okay, continuing on through this, I think this guy is right that a lot of people leave Christianity due to the actions of Christians, but I think a lot of it is not wanting a feeling of accountability for their sins. Oh, well, that's bullshit. I mean, seriously, I hate it when Christians say this, or religious people in general, because it's really not about the sins. The whole concept of sin doesn't stop Christians from sinning now. If you go and you look on the internet, you have several Christian pastors, preachers, priests, whatever else positions you have in the church. They all, like one of the predominant things that happens right now in our society is that those people fuck children all over the place, like everywhere. They grape them all over the place. And it's not just the Catholic Church either. Like it's throughout every single denomination out there. You have this. The Amish, they have their own problems with this exact thing. Jehovah's Witnesses, they have a problem. The Southern Baptist Coalition just found a whole bunch of fucking problems with their churches. What else do we got here? We've got the Fundamentalist Baptist, or the new Fundamentalist Baptist churches are just fucked up beyond recognition. They're horrible. Let's see, what other Mormons are pretty horrible on the whole sex thing. That's been documented. What else do we got? Mennonites. We just recently watched a Mennonite thing called it was about women talking. Yeah, Women Talking. It was a Mennonite group that was down in South America, and basically what happened was they caught a guy that was graping one of the young girls in the village, and the girls fought back and pointed them out and had the police arrest them, and then the entire male population, minus one person that wasn't technically part of the population. He was a teacher, but he stayed there to record and everything, like the meeting notes and everything like that. But the entire male population made a trip all the way into town, however fuck long that was. It was like 3 days or something, and to get the men out. And when they got back, the women had to forgive the men that raped them. That's what they literally had to do. So No, well, okay, sorry. Right, the women had three options: stay and say nothing, stay and fight, stay and change things, or leave. That was their options. Oh, I'm not. That was their options. But I'm talking about from the point of view of the men. They left out, and they were like, by the time we get back, I thought it was that they needed to forgive the men, or that violated them. That was their solution. They needed to forgive them. It wasn't in the men's minds that the women were going to fight back to change, or that they were going to leave. Maybe they gave them the option, either leave or just forgive the men. So, but they came up with that third option. So yeah, you're right. They had the second option of leaving, but it's how do you do that? How do you as a human person force women to make that decision? It's abhorrent to me. So don't sit there and tell me that it's about not being held accountable for sins, because Christians don't even hold themselves accountable for the sins that they commit. And you know why? Because all you got to do is pray to God and ask for forgiveness. You just got to sincerely ask for forgiveness and never do it again, and you're fine. So I don't it seems incredibly illogical to me for somebody to say you just don't want to be held accountable for your sins. No, I mean, in some cases, it's because these people don't hold people accountable for their sins in those church congregations, in those church communities. So don't give me this fucking bullshit that you got right there. Yeah, well, do you want me to So what they did was they used medical supplies to gas the entire home. The men in this Mennonite community, they would gas to tranquilize the entire house, and then they would go in and violate the girls. And they actually gaslit the girls, the women in these homes. They gaslit them to make them think that something else was happening, that they were like fucking ghosts or some kind of shit like that. And so the men were actively engaged in gaslighting the women to make them think that they were experiencing something completely different. Gaslighting's a shitty fucking thing to do. All right. Next comment. Let's move on. And this guy says, and this was on a post that was really mythicist leaning. This guy says, "You're an evangelist for Jesus, but operating in the wrong way." Yeah, evangelists don't use sense. They don't use logic. They just use the dogma in their religion in order to convince people. So that's definitely not what I do, because you know what I do? I argue from evidence, and I argue from the best explanation for the facts that we have. So it's kind of hard to say that I'm an evangelist for anything. I do bring receipts. I've got receipts out my asshole. I'm a fucking pro with the screenshotting and the keeping of records and shit.
So are the receipts on your phone up your butt, or like paper receipts up your butt?
I don't have any paper receipts or digital receipts up my ass, honey.
You just said you did. You said I have receipts out my asshole.
Oh, I have. That's just a phrase. All right. Okay, so this one's kind of a long one too, but we'll get through it hopefully kind of quick so I can get to we can get to the video tonight. So Hari Superianto, I doubt I got that right. He says, "Yo, dumb atheist, may I ask you 3 things?" No. Not with that kind of fucking attitude, you don't. But, you know, I need content, so here we go. All right. So he says, 1, do you believe it's probable that things can come out from absolute nothingness? Nope, never held that position, and I don't know of anybody that technically holds to that position. The nothingness that is at the before the inflation of the universe is different than the absolute nothingness that a lot of people consider it. So this is obviously coming from an apologist somewhere, this absolute nothing. So it's whatever. Anyways,
I'm over here laughing at how they put an asterisk for the U in dumb, like dumb is a cuss word.
yeah, I don't know why he censored the dumb. Like, I don't. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, that seems to be like the least problematic thing in this entire.
It seems very Dumba.
Dun starting. Anyways, 2, do you believe it's probable that randomness could produce consistency, structure, laws, pattern, constants, rules, harmony, and beauty? Randomness? I'm guessing he means that, all of those things are not like created by some intelligent being. And this is what he means by randomness. If that's the case, then no, I don't think an intelligent being is needed for any of those things. I think some of those things are part of the underlying fabric of reality. Like, that's just how our reality works. And then, like, he just puts pattern. What the fuck do you even mean by pattern? Like, like the pattern of like molecules or something, like the pattern of how crystals form. Like, do you think God is necessary in order for crystals to form and for those patterns to form, like snowflakes? You think God gives a shit about snowflakes? Like honeycombs? It is a cool pattern. Bees do make it. There's a natural explanation for why they make them the way that they do. There's also a natural explanation for how crystals form and for how snowflakes form. So I don't know what the fuck you mean by patterns. And then there's constants. That would probably be part of this underlying fabric of reality, these constants that supposedly exist.
You know, donating this much only makes me drink more.
You know what? You're right, honey. Snowflakes form from conservative idiots on the internet that are upset over fucking Bud Light. I've never seen a group that's so triggered over the most ridiculous shit. And they're the ones that make fun of liberals like me, like losing my shit over, I don't know, women losing the rights to their bodies, LGBTQ people being shot up, and I know, small children not being given a fuck about by the GOP, because as much as the GOP wants to act like they care about children, they seem to not really care all that much about children. They seem to care more about allowing their buddies to legally fuck children rather than protecting children.
Legally fuck children.
That's what I said.
Oh, I thought you said illegally.
No, legally fuck children.
Sorry, we got just derailed again. Sorry.
That's okay. All right. The rest of the things, no, those don't need God either. Number 3, if you honest, you would answer yes to both questions. Well, no, I'm not honest. Well, I am honest. Fuck. I'm being honest and saying no to those 2 questions because you're not representing my position in either of those questions. So why would I say yes? Also, this is a bit of, what would it be? Begging the question, because you start off with if you're honest. Well, if you honest, because you don't know how to fucking use the you, or you, your, and whatever in the fuck. But anyways, that's starting off by poisoning the well or whatever. What?
I'm sorry, I read ahead.
Oh, okay. And then they continue with the 3rd question. Do you realize the consequences you had for believing that there's probability for those 2 things, universe from nothingness and randomness? I mean, do you think randomness is like improbable? Because like random shit happens all the time. Like it's technically non-random things because, you know, the order of, you know, cause and effect, like one thing causes another thing and it's sort of like a domino kind of situation. So it only appears to be random, but it's you know, that kind of thing. Anyways, I don't know what that means. Like the 3rd question, like that's not like, do I realize that? No, I don't, because that's not a thing. And you're barely coherent in the question. You should try flapping your hand 3,000 times. Maybe you'll grow wings. Yeah, like does he think if I sit here for like 3 days and go caw caw?
But no, your hand. So it's just one hand and just your hand.
Caw. I feel like a caw is needed in order for me to like get like caw. Like, I mean, I feel like somebody's probably like done this 3,000 times in the past when we haven't had air conditioning and have been living in the South. Like, I feel like this is just a normal day for a fucking Southerner. Like 3,000? Are you fucking kidding me? Kind of shit. But that's not how evolution works. So you're just a dumbass. If you say it's not that simple, it need millions of processes, it need billions of years. Well, I mean, that's no matter how much I fucking flap my hand, it's not going to turn into a wing. So, I mean, it doesn't matter how many millions of processes or billions of years I do that. This is not going to turn into like a buffalo wing or some shit. Then I'll ask you, who says that? Nobody. Nobody says that. You're just straw manning the position. Who makes the rules? That it need billions of years or millions of processes to make your hands become wings. How crazy would that? I mean, can you imagine going to school one day and it's like, well, shit, we know what Billy was doing this weekend because he comes in like, cacao.
But it's just your hands. Just your hands are wings.
Right.
You've got arms, and then that's not right. That's fapping, not flapping.
That's fapping, not flapping. I mean, Billy comes to school with wings and he's like, motherfuckers. We know what Billy was doing this weekend. He discovered himself. 3,000 times. So nobody is making these rules because this is all just made up bullshit that's not real. So there you go. If you limiting randomness, then it's not random anymore. Limiting randomness? That's not a coherent sentence. Like, I don't even know what in the fuck does that mean. Like, does anybody know what in the fuck that means? Daniel M said, it seems like this guy believes smoke weed every day. Which I've actually, hold on. Here we go. Well, I mean, I already got it loaded, yeah.
Smoke weed every day.
I mean, I've always got it loaded in the scene because I need it so much. Let's see. Also, where does the rules come from? You just asked that like 2 questions ago. Who makes the rules? Where do the rules come from? I do. By a chance! Oh, what a paradox. I'm glad we moved into our own house because I'm sure neighbors wouldn't appreciate that. Are you sure? Have you been outside to like test that theory?
Yeah, when you're recording videos during the summer, when you're in here recording a video and I'm out there doing yard shit, yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I'm glad they don't call the police then. All right, last comment before we get to the video tonight. We've got Glaciated Luxray again, who has, more problems. Who says, evolution on a macro scale isn't a fact, though. Oh, well, so I understand people might not understand this, but, it is a scientific hypothesis. Not a hypothesis, sorry, I misspoke. It's a scientific theory, okay? And considering how much evidence that it has for it and how many experiments we can do on it to prove that it actually does happen, it's as close as an undeniable fact as you could possibly get at this point. So, yes, evolution in general is a fact. I've even got a shirt for it. It's I think it's downstairs in like the washer or some shit. But by the way, evolution is a fact. If you go to btwevolutionisAfact.com, you can get yourself a shirt that says that. But anyways, no. I moved them over earlier. Oh, no. It's a possible explanation, but we haven't seen one species evolve into another. Thus, it's not a fact. Actually, we have seen speciation occur in our lifetime. There was actually a bird out there in the Galapagos that we recorded at one point, and then we noticed a change in that community, and then a new species arose. So we have witnessed speciation, but more to the point of what they're talking about, because they're talking about a cat shitting out a dog that then shits out a walrus. And that's just simply not how evolution works. So you will never see that. It breaks the law of monophyly. Also, it's just simply not how our genetic processes work, that, you know, with reproduction and how our genes change and all that other kind of shit. So, I mean, that's just simply never gonna fucking happen the way that they think it'll happen, because they've got this Pokemon sense of evolution where if you train up your mosquitoes enough, they'll morph into like bigger fucking more annoying mosquitoes or some shit. And that's just not how it works. And it seems to me more and more like people are just hell-bent on not learning the opposition's position. And they are steadfast on not understanding the opposition's position. So if you ever come into a situation where maybe you're debating some asshole on the internet and they are hell-bent on not understanding your position, or they're just not bothering to research what your position even is, or they don't care what your position is, then you need to disengage from that and not engage with them anymore. So that's my advice. Anyways, thank you, Glaciated Luxray. I don't care if you comment on my stuff again, but, you know, it won't be beneficial for you, I'm sure. Anyways, are y'all ready to get to the video tonight? I know I am. I am not on my live stream panel for my stream deck here, but now I am. All right, let's get to it. Dum, 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 dum. Okay, so I have references in the description if you would like to go and look it up. There's no, I don't have the original video in there yet, but what I am going to do real quick is I will bring up 2 Corinthians. This little ditty right here. Hold on. I just need to boop. Boop. Shit. I apparently don't have a little window capture. Bible view. Ah! It overtook me. Christ on a crickle crackle. Okay. Above you. Okay, yes, that's where I need it to be. Sorry, I know I should have had this like beforehand, but you know, it's just how it do. it's just how it do. That's how I do. Okay, so this is concerning 2 Corinthians 12, 2 through 4. And this is Paul. This is an authentic Pauline epistle. If you guys don't know, Paul has 7 epistles that are authentic, and then there's a few that are not. This comes from, you know, this author we know as Paul. And he says, and this is, of course, a New International Version, but it's pretty similar in all of the other ones. I know a man in Christ who 14 years ago was caught up to the third heaven. Whether it was in the body or out of the body, I do not know. God knows. And I know that this man, whether in the body or apart from the body, I do not know, but God knows, was caught up to paradise and heard inexpressible things that no one is permitted to tell. So, as we can tell, it is definitely mentioning that a man in Christ, meaning a fellow Christian, who was taken up to the third heaven, and then it says he was taken up to paradise and heard inexpressible things. Now, paradise in Christianity, especially Paul's understanding of Christianity, paradise is Eden. The same Greek word that Paul uses here for paradise is the same word used in other works at the same time as Paul to indicate paradise. And also in the Septuagint, it describes Eden as paradise using the exact same Greek word. And so, normally I don't like using the Septuagint to validate what Paul says, but in this case, it's quite interesting that Paul is using the same word as the Septuagint when they're both describing paradise here. So it's definitely that paradise is Eden, and there is this first century understanding that paradise is in the third heaven, which is what it says right here, the third heaven. And you can actually be taken up there by God. And so that's what it says. And we'll get into some of the source criteria for validating that this is actually what was being said in Paul here as we progress through James McGrath's analysis, I guess, of this particular section. But essentially, the cosmology understood by not only Paul and first century Christians, but also Jews at this time, was that heaven was a physical place. It contained different layers to it, and the higher up you get in heaven, the more spiritual you are. So like the incorporeal beings, they were higher up in heaven. So like God is in the seventh heaven, where Jesus is supposedly sitting right now as this, spirit person, I guess, or this incorporeal being is up there in the third heaven, or not third heaven, sorry, in the seventh heaven and everything like that. And then as you descend through the heavens and you get all the way to the firmament, which would be the lowest parts of heaven, the firmament being that the firmament is this solid dome that's over the earth, you lose that incorporealness, and it's like the firmament's inhabited by corporeal beings, most notably like Satan, his demons. We even have record of this outside of Paul as being a general idea of not only Jews but also Christians. So Satan and his demons were living in the firmament of the heaven, and how this is not integral but part of the mythicist argument is that the minimal mythicist argument says that Jesus was a pre-existent incorporeal being at first, and then God fabricated a body for him, created this body for him out of Davidic sperm, and then Jesus, descended. This Christ figure descended and took on this mortal body to suffer, die, be buried, and then ascend back up into heaven. So what this shows right here is that the paradise that is known in Genesis and to these first century Christians was actually in the third heaven. And where this connects with the rest of mythicism and Christian thought is that Adam was actually, not only Adam, but also it was Adam, Eve, and Abel. All three of them were thought to be buried in the third heaven, which is where they were created. So to these individuals, they thought of Adam as initially a divine figure, because that's divine figures were inhabiting the heavens, including the lower heavens. So like Satan and his demons, those were divine beings. Adam initially started out as a divine being, and then when they disobeyed God, God threw them out of paradise down onto the earth where they, were banished to because they disobeyed God, right? That was part of the fall of Adam and all this other stuff. And so where this factors in is that if we as mythicists are going to say that Jesus was buried in the heavens, then if that is the case, then there should be evidence of this elsewhere in not only Christianity, but also Judaism, because all of this is derived from Judaism. So do we find this? Yes, we do, in this idea that Adam is buried in the third heaven. When Adam dies on earth, not only Adam, but also, like I said, also Eve and Abel, they were all taken up by God. As we'll see, specifically, God has Michael, the archangel, take them up into heaven and to be buried where they were fashioned, which is in the Garden of Eden, in paradise. That's where Adam is buried. To kind of orient yourselves to how our cosmos is actually sort of structured, the third heaven is either located at the same level as either Venus or the sun. Now, it's not like a heliocentric model that you got to think about with this. What you got to think about is a geocentric model, because that's the model that they had. They thought that the Earth was the center of the entire universe, obviously. And so, like, the planets were emanating out from the Earth. So it's either Venus, because Venus is actually known as the morning star, right? So it's either Venus or it's the sun itself is the level at which the third heaven is at. So that means that Eden could quite literally have been considered to be on the sun, because they didn't know how the sun worked at that time, right? They just saw bright light and we can't see anything, so therefore Eden, I guess. But we don't really know which model that they had in mind when they were talking about the third heaven. Paul doesn't give us any kind of indication. There's no indication given in our source material. So we don't really know which kind of like layers to heaven that they had in mind, but it was either Venus or the sun. And this is all found in the mainstream scholarship concerning the cosmology of the Jews. Not just Jews, but also Christians. So the Eden was definitely located in the third heaven. We have multiple sources for that, which we'll get to in a minute. But all of this is integral to the mythicist hypothesis, or it's part of the mythicist hypothesis, because this proves that Jews would have believed in somebody dying and being buried in the lower parts of heaven, and specifically the firmament. So because Adam was buried farther up the chain than the firmament, in the third heaven, the third layer of it, it seems like there would be no issue for these Jewish Christians to also consider Jesus to have been buried in the heavens. And so it's that very specific part. We're laying the foundation for Jews accepting this idea because they already believed in similar ideas. So this is not something that's crazy. This is not something that's just fucking out there. This is recognized by academics studying the field. Literally, I had talked to Carrier about this, and he literally spent 10 minutes on Google Scholar and came up with, no joke, 5 to 7 scholars that were citing this idea in some kind of way. So, and I'm gonna show y'all some of those sources here in a minute, but I just kind of wanted to get y'all sort of oriented to the discussion that we're having, how it's important to the mythicist position. All right. Now I got to bust out the headphones.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Now remember, you can't be anachronistic about this, and this is important because of how James McGrath is going to answer this. You can't sit there and have a modern concept of cosmology. You can't have a modern understanding of like what heaven is. Like you have to orient yourself to a first century Jewish Christian mindset. Okay. That's very important in any of these discussions, because that's one of the biggest problems that I see people making, is that they're anachronistic about their interpretation of this kind of stuff. So let's see what James McGrath has to say.
My friend John Gleason on YouTube, he actually brings up this idea, and he brought it up in our conversation on YouTube about Adam being in the third heaven. So we talked about the Adam theology where Jesus is compared to Adam. Well, that doesn't harm the celestial Jesus model in their eyes, because, well, Adam's from paradise, which was the Garden of Eden. And Paul tells us, I once knew a man who went to the third heaven, went to paradise, and there are things unutterable I cannot say, and yada, yada, yada.
I don't exactly appreciate the yada, yada, yada part, just because it would be beneficial to actually recite what's literally being said in Paul's writings. But I also disagree with the notion that we understand how Adam's body was constructed because of this. This particular aspect of it, what it solidifies is the notion of Jesus or the Christ rather being buried in the firmament. If other people were being buried up there in the heavens, then there's no problem for Jesus to be buried in the heavens. So this is something that Jews would have believed if it existed at the time. So it's this has like as far as like in the mythicist hypothesis, we don't use this particular section, as far as I understand it, to prove that Adam's body was somehow constructed, or that Paul believed that Adam's body was constructed. How we actually establish that is not concerned with Paul's concept of where Eden was whatsoever, because Paul's concept of Adam is like he reads in the Septuagint, that God fashioned this body for Adam out of dirt, right? And so, being that, Paul uses the word genomai in order to describe Adam's body. And whenever Paul describes Adam's body or talks about Adam, coming into being, he uses genomai. He also, Paul uses that of our resurrection bodies, this word genomai, because God fashions and creates them. He causes them to come into being in that fashion. And then whenever Paul talks about Jesus, and, whenever you see being rendered as being born, like born of a woman, that particular part, that's Galatians 4:4. He specifically uses genomai. And that's actually different from how the Septuagint uses that phrase, born of a woman, because the Septuagint uses genao in order to construct that phrase. But Paul makes a very conscious decision to use genomai. And the only time that Paul uses genomai in order to infer anything about what Paul thinks about Jesus's body, how he came into being, he relates that to Adam's body and our future resurrection bodies using this one word. And so that's kind of how we get to, Jesus had a manufactured body, or Jesus had a body that was brought into being, right? So that's the explanation for that. This particular portion is actually just used to solidify that Jews would have believed in a Christ buried in heaven, because they already believed in something that goes farther than that, being that Adam is buried in the third heaven. So there you go.
So he equivocates the paradise with Adam being in the Garden of Eden. So technically Adam was this third heaven being. And then so when we say Jesus was born of a flesh, under the law, the whole nine, and he's like Adam, but he's the last Adam that is actually doing it the right way, he's just in heaven this whole time.
So, I mean, I would say that with the creation of Adam's body, that is the conclusion. But as far as this particular part right here, while Paul's scripture does indicate that Adam was in fact a celestial figure to him, or at least starts out as this divine celestial figure in the heavens, that's not where we get this idea from. We get this idea of Adam being having a created body and paradise being in the heavens from different places, which, like I said, we'll get to here in a minute. We'll actually read some source documentation about that. But this was a just to orient y'all, this is a common idea in not only academia, but also in our source material for Jewish Christians in the first century. This is not like a fringe idea. This is well supported in academia. So, I mean, just so y'all know. What up there, John Salento? He came to talk some shit in the chat. Go ahead and talk some shit there, John.
And so I know you don't agree with that, but like, can you help us understand what is going on in Paul? And is there a way to explain this that makes better sense with the earthly model rather than saying this is paradise in outer space?
Well, James McGrath, with his shit-eating grin, is definitely going to have a hard time doing this without being dishonest or disingenuous, because it's common knowledge that in the cosmology at the time, there were multiple levels to heaven and that paradise was in the third heaven. This is not the place where, you know, we get this idea from. Like, it's not like Paul says it, so therefore that's where it comes from. It comes from other places. So actually, you know what? I'll just go ahead and fuck it. We'll just go ahead and bring up the sources since I keep talking about it, right? I've got a whole hell of a lot of stuff. Now, this is R.H. Charles, who's he's a scholar working specifically in this field. Now, this comes from a little ditty known as the Apocalypse of Moses, but the Apocalypse of Moses also goes by another name, I guess a stage name, if you will, of the life of Adam and Eve, where they actually they'll actually discuss Adam and Eve's life, like, you know, where the fact that they lived and where they died, and where, more importantly, where they were buried. So we're just gonna let's just read from the top, shall we, to see how fucking ridiculous this is. A first century text, by the way, and not a I don't believe that this is a Christian text either. Hold on, I got my source material over here. Crap. I don't know if this is primarily a Christian text. I can't remember right offhand, but anyways, it's either Christian or I think it might be Jewish. But oh yes, in many other Jewish apocrypha. Yeah, okay. So I do believe that this is a Jewish text of it. But anyways, it says right at the top, "And God saith to him, Adam, what hast thou done? If thou hast kept my commandments, there would now be no rejoicing among those who are bringing thee down to this place. Yet I tell thee that I will turn their joy to grief, and thy grief will turn to joy, and I will transform thee to thy former glory, and set thee on the throne of thy deceiver. But he shall be cast into this place to see thee sitting above him. Then he shall be condemned, and they that heard him, and he shall be grieved sore when he seeth thee sitting on his honorable throne. And he stayed there 3 hours, lying down. And thereafter the Father of all, sitting on his holy throne, the golden shitter, stretched out his hand and took Adam and handed him over to the archangel Michael, saying, I'm going to yell this for those in the back and those hard of hearing and those not wanting to really understand this. Okay, not too loud. Lift him up into paradise unto the third heaven and leave him there until that fearful day of my reckoning. It says, let me blow this up for you. This is a Jewish text, first century Jewish text, talking about Adam and Eve. Lift him up into paradise unto the third heaven and leave him there, which I will make in the world. Then Michael took Adam and left left him where God told him, in the third heaven, in paradise. So this was a known thing in not only academia now, but also the Jewish Christian community at the time, that Adam's body was buried up in the third heaven. Later on in this same part, which y'all can look it up, it's either the life of Adam and Eve or the Apocalypse of Moses. Either one. I do have a link in the description for the Apocalypse of Moses, where you can go and read it. You see the little things there. It's 39, and I don't know why they do their numbering like this, but it's like 39 and 37 is those two things. But in any case, so what Michael does is Michael takes the body, cleans it, takes it up to the third heaven in order for Adam's body to be buried. Eve is knowing that she's about to die. She also gets taken up to the third heaven to be buried. Abel also is taken up to the third heaven to be buried. So God commands Michael, which even the JWs think that Michael is actually the Christ, like Jesus. Like there's an actual academic argument that says that Michael is Jesus, and there's denominations now that believe this, the Jehovah's Witnesses, as shitty as they are. But in any case, this is another text that says it. And then there's so many other things, like other authors. Hold on, let me get my thing pulled up real quick here. Let's see. Life of Adam and Eve. It does that. Let's see. In Jean Delmilliot, University of Illinois Press affirms this, saying that another intertestamental writing, the third Apocalypse of Baruch, also places the paradise in the third heaven. But interestingly enough, in that particular academic article there, that academic thing, it also placed Hades in the third heaven as well. So Hades is up there coexisting alongside these other angelic figures. So there's that. And there's, like I said, several academic scholars in this particular area that support this idea. So McGrath here has failed to do the very basics, I feel, of a scholar. And you'll see here in a minute what I'm talking about, but he's failed to do any of this. We've already seen a little bit of the preview because Derek already knows that McGrath doesn't believe this. But if McGrath doesn't believe this and he doesn't affirm what the scholarship is already telling us, then that means he hasn't read the scholarship. If he doesn't explain why the scholarship is wrong, then that further proves that he hasn't read the scholarship or he doesn't care what the scholarship says.
Yeah. I mean, the short answer is, Eddie Money had 2 tickets to paradise, but I take him as a human being, hoping that someone will accompany him to a place that is not, at least literally, in the third heaven.
I feel like I could interpret that as him saying, maybe you can be my barometer there, honey, but I feel like with him saying, oh, I consider this person who bought 2 tickets to paradise to be a human, therefore paradise is located on earth. I feel like that is insinuating that he considers Adam to be a human person formed by God on earth and that paradise is on earth. I know it's a song, but he's saying that the singer that wrote it is human, therefore he doesn't think paradise is in heaven. That's really dumb. It is really dumb. This is the anachronistic part that I'm talking about, that he's importing this modern notion of what he thinks paradise is, right? Because we've the Christian community has reoriented things so that these things are actually on earth, but that's not how these first century Jewish Christians were thinking. I mean, I showed you the source material of the apocalypse of Moses. There's also this apocalypse of Baruch that place paradise in the third heaven. These are like first century or Jewish works and Christian works that say that paradise is in the third heaven. But this motherfucker comes in here and he's sitting there and he's telling us, oh, no, paradise was on earth because this fucker wrote a song talking about paradise. How does that make sense?
Who's hoping would feel like it, but that's a different, we don't need to get into that, I think, today. But more seriously, I see you're looking, saying, I hope he's not going to make corny jokes like this too much.
No. So this is the problem with my job. I'm a guy and I have a hard time multitasking. So I'm actually hoping you'll respond, and I'm like just checking on the chat, making sure everybody's being good. Like Nobody's picking on each other, beating each other up. That's all. I'm being the daddy figure here. That's all.
Yeah. I'll try not to stir things up so much that things go really awry in the chat like that. But
there's a fire starting in the chat right now. I'm just kidding.
my serious point, by way of that is that, we use paradise, in a generic way. It's not originally used for the Garden of Eden story, right? Borrowed, linguistically from elsewhere, but is applied to that as this primordial, supposedly perfect place. And of course, that gets used for the heavenly realm. But then it gets used for the new heavens and the new earth, including the new earth, right, in Revelation, right, with God's dwelling among human beings. And so certainly the use of that term, I would not think in and of itself justifies relocating the Genesis 2 and 3 story to the celestial realm. Now, there were people who...
Well, I mean, we're not saying to relocate the Genesis interpretation to the celestial realm. I mean, Paul is the one that's locating paradise in the celestial realm, which he says celestial realm, but I mean, that kind of gives it this air of like another dimension, right? Like the realm, like the quantum realm. Yeah, it's like the fucking quantum realm. You got to wear the fucking Ant-Man suit in order to get there or some shit. No, it's a physical place to the first century Jewish Christians. And for McGrath to sit there and be so anachronistic at this point that he's importing our understanding of the heavens and everything like that into Paul's words and into the concept that we're even discussing here. I think it's ridiculous. But then McGrath goes one bit further, and he says that, oh, I don't think this is any reason to reinterpret Genesis to be about a third heaven or anything like that. And I don't know what the authors were thinking in Genesis. I don't know if they were originally thinking of heaven, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how the original authors thought. This is the biggest problem with historicists now, is that they have a problem, a deep problem, with thinking about Paul as reinterpreting scripture. So however the Septuagint authors or the original authors of the Old Testament were writing and they were thinking about these events, however they were thinking about it, that's obviously not how Paul was thinking about it. because Paul was actively taking part in Pesher logic. And so what that involves is taking certain things from the Old Testament and reinterpreting them into a new allegorical meaning. And so considering that Paul is a well-learned Jew, like Paul says this in Galatians 1 something fucking or another, that says that he has progressed in his Judaism beyond all of his peers. So he knows the scriptures. He reinterprets them. And he, along with other Jews at the time, understand that Adam was in the third heaven, was formed in the third heaven where paradise is. And we also have evidence in like Hebrews that say that, you know, there are like the structures that are here on earth are just tainted copies of the structures in heaven. And at every single layer of heaven, there exists an even more perfect version of whatever structure is there. Think of an onion, right? We're the rotten core here on earth. And as you progress outward, you have better and better, fucking onion shells. I don't know what you call them. Onion layers, rings, whatever. And until you get to the seventh heaven, right? That's the most perfect. That's where God is. That's where Christ is. That's where the heavenly angels are, these incorporeal angels. So, I mean, this is the cosmology of first century Christians and Jewish Christians. So it seems like McGrath here doesn't even know his specialty area. He's supposed to know this shit. This is supposed to be standard. This is known throughout the scholarship that this was the thing. But for some reason, McGrath doesn't know about it. Why could that be? I don't know. I don't know why he doesn't know. But it kind of seems like he should.
Interpreted the story in Genesis 1 as about a prototypical celestial human being in whose image then the earthly is made, right? You get that in Philo. You get that in some Jewish mysticism and Gnosticism, has some echoes of that idea. But that's not the human being that ends up getting into trouble and needs redemption and things like that. And so,
see, that's just not true, because in this particular concept of Adam being a divine being, Adam and Eve were fashioned in the third heaven in paradise. And then Eve was convinced by the serpent, who was a demonic figure that I guess came from Hades, that also existed in the third fucking heaven, as we see in the Apocalypse of Baruch. This figure convinced Eve, eat the fruit. Eve ate the fruit, and then they got tossed out of paradise. Now, being tossed out of paradise, could that possibly mean that paradise was on earth and they were just simply tossed out of the garden? Sure. But it also makes sense for them to be tossed out of paradise, being that they were thrown out and cast down onto the earth. Adam, Eve, and the serpent. That makes sense when you also consider the other material that existed at the time in the first century, most notably the Apocalypse of Moses / the life of Adam and Eve. Because that did exist, and that was believed by some people in the first century. So his explanatory power is taking a major hit here, because his idea doesn't explain these other ideas in Judaism that we have. Now, he did he talked about some Jewish mysticism or Gnosticism or something like that. Like he mentions that as like, oh yeah, there were some of these people that were kind of like weird or something like that. Like he really kind of downplays that idea, but he makes it out to be like, oh, well, this was the idea that was going around, not these fringe fucks, right? But that's simply like, if that were the case, then I don't think that Christianity would have ever gained a foothold. Like, if it was so crazy and so out there that the Jews and Jewish Christians wouldn't have accepted it, then Christianity just simply wouldn't have even started. But it's proven wrong by the fact that Jews and Jewish Christians did believe this.
It's still not, and, if one wanted to make a case for, Paul views Jesus as, somehow embodying that primordial Adam, but he calls him the last Adam, right? Not the first Adam and then the earthly Adam, the second Adam, or something like that.
Well, I mean, God calls Jesus his firstborn son, and God used Jesus in order to create everything, like through everything. I mean, this is just standard in the literature. So I don't know what this entire section has to do, like calling someone the last Adam and the first Adam. I mean, I don't understand what that has to do with anything. As far as like Adam, as far as one, paradise existing in the third heaven, or Adam being made in the third heaven, like I don't know why he's trying to connect this to the whole Christ, figure, in the way that he is. Like this is an incoherent portion right here. Let me backtrack a little bit and see if I can really understand what he's trying to say.
It's still not, and if one wanted to make a case for, Paul views Jesus as, somehow embodying that primordial Adam, but he calls him the last Adam, right?
Jesus inhabiting that primordial Adam? Like, that just, I mean, I'm not just like being dumb, right? Like that just doesn't make sense. Like even on minimal mythicism, like that just doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense. Like that's not what we say. This is the problem with scholars like James McGrath, as well as Craig Keener, Craig Blomberg, or others, is that they don't actually know the arguments of mythicists. And I've said this several times recently, that it can only help their position for them to know what the mythicist position is. Like the strongest mythicist position, it's hard to say mythicist so many times. The strongest position is to take on the academic position. It's not to brush off the academic position for, just internet laymen that adhere to the position. Actually tackle the academic position, because this entire interview here, this entire question, just makes James McGrath look incredulous. It does, because he's not interacting with the actual argument. So he's just taking down a straw man that he's already invented himself.
Not the first Adam and then the earthly Adam, the second Adam, or something like that. So if that was his meaning, I would expect him to say something else. So yeah, I'm not sure if there's anything else that needs to be said about that, but
I guess just the Eden and paradise are the same in Paul when he says, I knew a man who went to paradise. Is that a fair, I mean, I understand why someone can make that, try to make that comment, but is that what Paul's saying? Is he saying, hey, I went up to Eden?
No, Paul's not saying, if we go back and we look, hold on. If we come back here and we look at it, I know a man in Christ who 14 years ago was caught up to the third heaven. Here, let's change. Let's go to let's see, ESV. I know a man in Christ who 14 years ago was caught up to the third heaven. He was taken up to the third heaven. Let's see, in what is it? New American Bible Standard. I think it's like NIRV. No. Can't remember which one is the one. New NRSVA maybe. I know a person in Christ who 14 years ago was caught up to the third heaven. See, every single anglicized, every single translation that we get of this says, I know a person. We don't know who that person is. Could it be Paul? Sure. Could it not be Paul? Could it be Paul's friend, general Christian, some other fuck out there? Sure. We don't know. 14 years ago was caught up to the third heaven. He was pulled up to the third heaven. How? I'm just kind of curious because we're about to experience a mindfuck here. How exactly are you supposed to be caught up to the third heaven if you're not literally brought up to the third heaven by God? We saw it in the Apocalypse of Moses. You just take the elevator. There's an elevator to heaven. I figured it'd be a stairway. Get it? Stairway to heaven. Anyways, and a highway to hell. Stairway to heaven, highway to hell, because it's easier to get to hell. It's also funner. But so I mean, just take this in. I mean, this is literally what Paul is saying. Regardless of what actually exists, regardless of what the Septuagint says, regardless of what the what the Jews that were writing Genesis actually thought, this is what Paul is interpreting. This is what Paul knows. This is what Paul understands about not only Adam, but also the structure of the heavens, where paradise is.
When he said paradise?
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't say that, and I don't think we have any clear reason to think that that's what he meant.
I'm sorry. Fucking what? Because like I said, it's all across the scholarship that paradise is equated to fucking Eden. Like it's everywhere in the scholarship. Shit. I think, do I have it in the description here? Okay, so in the description, I have the 2 Corinthians part. This concept that paradise is in the third heaven also appears in the Revelation of Moses, which is different than the Apocalypse of Abraham / the life of Adam and Eve. And then it's also appearing in 2 Enoch, 8 and 9. So those are other, Jewish and Jewish Christian scriptures that also mention this. You got the Apocalypse of Moses there. And then there's also, I think it's on my phone. I was looking at it on my phone. Hold on. I got a name of one particular thing that apparently I don't have on my fucking phone anymore. Okay. Let's see. Quentin Van Boeven says, do you think there's an elevator?
Donating this much only makes me drink more.
If I had any more drink, I probably would drink it. No, I probably shouldn't. No, I'm good. But in any case, like I said, you can search on Google Scholar. I'll probably put this in the post editing on this, but you can search on Google Scholar that this whole idea of connecting paradise to Eden. Like I said before this, paradise is used in the Septuagint, which is what Paul would have known. Paul uses paradise in this way, and also paradise is connected to Eden, or Eden is referenced as paradise all throughout Christian scripture. Not only that, but it's also understood in the current academic landscape that paradise is Eden. So what James McGrath's answer to this is to obfuscate what Paul could mean by paradise. But that doesn't really help him, because all it does is expose his ignorance of the current scholarship. It exposes his ignorance of his own field. Like, how can you trust a scholar that's working in his field when he doesn't know what his field says? Or at the most, you could say that he does know what his field says. He just disagrees with his field. But that's not what he's saying right here. He's actively acting like it's not a solid thing that paradise equals Eden. It very obviously does. All other scholars recognize this, but it doesn't work for this particular question that Derek has, so he might as well just misrepresent the situation. Quentin Van Boven says, do you think there is an elevator to heaven to comply with the ADA? I mean, probably. I mean, why not, right? God is all-knowing and all-powerful. He must have known that the ADA would have come around eventually. So, I mean, why not? Why not make it accessible like that?
But just as with your exploration of the question, did Jesus exist, right, which you were sort of apologetic for, apologizing for early on. It's like, why did I even think this? It's a legitimate question, right? All of these are legitimate questions. I mean, I spend a ridiculous amount of time. I spend time even outside of 9 to 5 working hours trying to think of new ways of understanding this well-worn material that people have been studying for a long time. Why?
See, I feel like this is the game that's played by a lot of these scholars, is that they have this faux front that they put up where they're like, oh, this is a totally legitimate question, but in reality there can only be one answer, and it's whatever answer gets them to disregarding mythicism or disregarding the opposition. And I feel like this faux front that's put up by these people is just so transparent, because he's like, oh, it's a legitimate question. If it's a legitimate question and you spend all of this time diving into all of this stuff, then why don't you know the consensus of your own field? And I mean, you might be thinking, well, why doesn't Carrier know that? Or, Raphael Lataster, or any of the other mythicist academics that are out there. That's the difference. They do know what the consensus is, because they have to argue against the consensus. It's the consensus people that don't know the mythicist position, but also do shit like this.
Especially, it's worth asking why, when given how much it's been studied, odds are if I come up with something new, it's going to be wrong, right?
Right.
The chances are somebody before me has got it right already, and I'm just.
So, if you agree that you're probably wrong about something, and somebody else has researched this, I know that he wasn't expecting this question on this stream, but considering that this is his area of expertise, don't you think that he would stay up on current scholarship? And I mean, I'm using current like very liberally. And by current, what I mean is like in the past 30 years. Like, this isn't like something that came up in 2019, like, oh, we've discovered this. No, this has been in the scholarship for a long time. You would think that he would know about this shit.
But if 1 in 1,000 is, then, hopefully my 1,000th idea will, contribute something to our knowledge and our understanding, right? Trying to think new things, considering alternatives is absolutely worth doing, and it's always worth doing. And so I think this question is worth considering. It just seems to me that overall the evidence points towards Paul having distinguished between his heavenly journey, which he doesn't say a lot about, and the place that he would have assumed that a real Adam and Eve, right, because that would have been his assumption, dwelt on the earth.
No, like that's not like the consensus of the field. The consensus of the field is that Paul and other first century Jewish Christians thought of paradise or Eden as being in the third heaven. He obviously isn't up on the scholarship. He obviously, doesn't even search like the scholarship of his own field. I mean, I don't know what else to say at this point. I kind of feel like I know. So if it were me and I was looking for people to support my position, I would want people that present not only their conclusion about things, but also discuss the opposition. And it seems like McGrath hasn't done that. It seems like he doesn't even know what the opposition to his idea is, because he seems to think that all the evidence points towards his idea, when it's literally the opposite. There's not a whole hell of a lot of information that points towards his idea as far as first century Jews and Jewish Christians go. But more importantly, the academia is actively against his idea. And he seems to be ignorant of that.
Because it in fact says, made of the earth. If he is relocating Eden there, is that then third heaven, earth? I mean, that's a really weird concept. Right? And one, again, I'm not.
That's a really weird concept. Yes, they had really fucking weird concepts in Judaism. That's the fucking point. Sorry, I was trying to get to the actual information. That I have for the scholarship on this.
Donating this much only makes me drink more.
Thank you so much. So sorry. I don't know who just sent that. Peyton Dooley says Revelation 22:2 says that the tree of life was on the new earth. It's the Garden of Eden. Yeah, so the Revelation 22:2 also has the Garden of Eden on new earth, but I mean that's a celestial thing, like this whole new earth idea. I don't know why I can't search the Facebook messages like on desktop like I can on my phone. Let's see. We mentioned Delamieux on Google Scholar. You can go on Google Scholar and search that up. Let's see. There's 2 Enoch. Also on Brill, which Brill is an academic publisher. There's chapter 7, the Tree of Life in Enochic literature. So Enoch has the Tree of Life being placed in the third heaven in paradise. They use the same stuff there. I can put all of this in post, I guess. Early the Vigile Christiane author Robert M.G. in Early Christian Geography that also places the paradise or Eden in the third heaven. Let's see. Elior, the Garden of Eden is the Holy of Holies. In that particular journal article by Elior, it also suggests that. And the entire point of bringing all of these scholars up is that this is a known thing. Like, you go to Google Scholar and you search up this particular topic, and you'll come up with multiple different scholars that support this idea. So it's really weird that McGrath doesn't even know the scholarship in his own field.
I'm not saying that somebody shouldn't actually try to find traces of it in ancient literature, write a full-fledged academic article making the case that there could be this idea.
I mean, that there's already academic articles that have been written that agree with this idea, because it was the idea at the time. Like, this is all throughout the literature. We don't need to write up an academic article about what Paul thought about it, because Paul is very clear about what he thought about it in the words that he chooses to use, also in the literal words of it. Like, let me just bring it back up real quick. I know a person in Christ who 14 years ago was caught up to the third heaven. The person was pulled up by God to the third heaven. And, you know, we've also got like the Ascension of Isaiah, which is a later Christian text, but it also has a motherfucker being brought up to the heavens like that. So, I mean, it's all throughout the literature, like the source material. If McGrath has been diving into the source material and has been doing the work of scholars, he would know this.
But in the absence of that, there's no real reason why somebody should posit as yet unattested ideas about third heaven, earth.
It's not unattested. It's been in the scholarship for years. Just James McGrath is, not looking at the scholarship. Also, he's literally asking the audience right now to forego the words that are literally on the fucking page. I've said this before, and I will say it again. I'll say it as many times as I need to. Excuse my literacy, but I can just read the words on the fucking page.
Which the earthly atom is then made from. It just gets, when things start to get so complicated and muddy, it sometimes means that there's stuff we don't know, but sometimes it just means we're building something.
I think it's amazing that he doesn't know that scholarship has already been done on this question. That scholarship hasn't already been published in peer-reviewed journals. Like, that fact alone indicates to me that I can't trust this guy right here. I can't trust James McGrath to give me good information about the field of biblical and New Testament studies, because he doesn't know the very basics of this field. And it's obvious because we've proven it in this video. Because apparently he doesn't know about the apocalypse of Moses or the life of Adam and Eve. He doesn't know about the third apocalypse of Baruch. He doesn't know about all of these, the ascension of Isaiah. That's another one that has the third heaven method hierarchy to it, multiple levels of heaven, as it were. So, I mean, the fact that he doesn't know this shit is concerning. It should be concerning to anybody, and it should be a red flag to anybody that wants to have James McGrath on their channel to be some kind of expert in this shit. Because if you're gonna be an expert in this kind of shit, maybe you should know the material. I don't know. Maybe that's a crazy thing that I require of people, that if they're going to be an expert, that they would know their shit. But, I just figured you would want to present like the best information that you got. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, we're putting things together in a way that runs counter to the natural way of interpreting the evidence.
The natural way for James McGrath to read the evidence, because he has a particular goal, or he has a particular idea in mind as to what this is supposed to mean. And so he has to forego all of that current research. And by current, I mean in the past 30 fucking years. He has to forego all of that to make it seem like it's ridiculous to reinterpret shit in weird ways, when in fact he's the one that's reinterpreting Paul's words in weird ways. He's the one that's asking you to forego your literal visual acuity of being able to read shit on a page. I mean, I feel like even a blind person could look at this, and however that they read this shit or they hear this shit, they can hear the words and know that Paul is talking about a motherfucker who 14 years ago was pulled up into the third heaven to the paradise, which is attested all throughout Christian literature as being Eden. to say, oh no, we don't know what he's talking about here. It's just pure fucking bullshit at this point. Woo. Fucking saw. That's going to be it for the video. That was it for that section. I appreciate Derek bringing this up. But I would say one correction I'll make there is that this is not my argument about Eden or paradise being in the third heaven, or Paul believing that somebody was pulled up by God to the third heaven. For one thing, it's just reading the words on the page. That's literally what it fucking says. It just says it right there. Words on the page. It's there. 2, not my argument. Other academics are making this argument. I'm the one that's actually reading the academic material. And I am the one that's just taking the academic consensus on this topic and presenting it to my audience, because I've done the work of researching this and vetting it for myself, following footnotes, going to Sci-Hub. I don't know if you guys know about Sci-Hub, but you can use Sci-Hub to get academic material, not only on like scientific topics, but you can, as long as you have a DOI number, you can go there and most likely you're going to be able to pull these academic journal articles and shit like that. So you can follow the academia. You can see what academics are saying. And while yes, I do hold to a fringe position of mythicism, this is not a fringe position. This is actually the academic consensus in the field. So this isn't just some kind of fucking weird thing I'm making up on the spot, or I'm misinterpreting Paul's words, or I'm twisting Paul's words in order to make it say what I want it to. I'm literally just reading the words on the page and considering what Paul and other first century Jewish Christians, as well as Jews, thought about the cosmology of their world, as well as what they thought about Adam. So, I mean, fuck me for doing the legwork on this, I guess. Anyways, that's going to be our show for tonight. We do have some, comments to go through. Sorry, I had a total brain fart there for a second. We do have some comments from the Skeptic Mafia to go through. But other than that, next week, I've actually got some more mythicist stuff coming out. So there's Rebecca Watson. I don't know if anybody from days past of atheism remembers Rebecca Watson, but she recently used Bart Ehrman in order to support the historicity of Jesus. So actually on Monday, what we have is me refuting Bart Ehrman just with fucking innate knowledge of source material, as well as source criticism, and just basic shit. Sorry, nothing fell over, just my little wand thing that I used to take off all the little things on my shirt. Anyways, so we got that going, and then I don't know what's going to be coming on later on in the week that week, but we will have a new Skeptic Mafia podcast, and we will also have a new Bible podcast, so y'all be sure to tune in for that. We're about to head into the Skeptic Mafia comments. If you don't know, the Skeptic Mafia comments are the comments that the Skeptic Mafia gets to leave for the video. They end up picking the video, and they get to leave a comment that I interact with at the end of the stream every Friday night. So if you want a chance to be able to leave your 2 cents on the video that they pick, then y'all pick, rather, then you'll need to join the Skeptic Mafia. It's pretty easy. It helps us donate to charity. Like this month, we're donating to an autism-centered charity for that community, so that they can provide certain services and materials and everything like that for that community. So if you want to help us do that, consider sending a super chat or becoming a Skeptic Mafia member, or just watching our videos and sharing them out. All of that helps. So Sorry, I'm trying to do all this in one breath. If you will, please go down below, leave me a comment if you're watching this on the replay, or leave me a comment in the side chat. I'd really love to see what you guys have to say about all this kind of shit. So leave me comments, and make sure you smash that like button and subscribe if you like this kind of content, because I'm a mythicist. This is one subject that I know really, really well, so be expecting content like this on occasion. So smash that subscribe button if you like mythicist content. And don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens. But don't go, because we got the Skeptic Mafia comments to go over. There's no reason to cut out just yet. Just hold your horses, because the Skeptic Mafia normally has like some good feedback. I know that this is an incredibly niche sort of topic tonight. So I don't expect like too much of it. Yeah, see, like there's 3 comments to get through tonight, so it's relatively short, and we'll probably be out of here in just a few seconds. And my guess that normally there's more Skeptic Mafia comments, but that's typically on videos that are covering more general topics, like, you know, the existence of God or the resurrection or atheism in general. Like, we normally have a lot more, but this is incredibly specific, and so not a lot of people know anything about it. So I didn't expect to get a lot of comments on it, but we are going to be looking at it. Has anybody else that's using Chrome noticed that their Control Plus has stopped zooming? Because now, like, I have to interact with like the system or the Chrome system menu and everything like that in order to get it fucking working properly. Yes, but don't go. That's right there, Drew. Don't go yet. Come on now. Y'all got to stay for people to give their 2 cents. All right. So first up is Trickster, who says, don't know a lot about the third heaven belief, so I guess I'll just say glad to see you back, GE, and hope all is well with you and yours. Can't wait to watch this when I get home in the morning. Peace. See you there, Trickster. Thank you so much. And then Jen XRN says, I love Myth Vision. So many different views and scholars are on there. Thank you so much there, Jen. Jen XRN. And then finally, we got Deus Ex Tomato, who's got the most fire of ASCII memes. Deus Ex says, I watched and still have no clue what to actually say. There's like nothing there, really. Then again, I don't usually do debunks of religious stuff, usually pseudoscience. But I love watching you do it, so here goes nothing, I guess. Oh, and you know what time it is. ASCII time. Oh, sus. Insert Amogus sound. I don't know what the sound is, because they're totes sus, like completely sus. I've never seen anyone show such saucity. Their sussity is through the roof. Indeed, they have such sussity that it can't even be susplained. Anyway, on with it. Yeah, if you like this kind of stuff, lick that like button, slurp the subscribe, and beep the bell. Fuck it. Go ahead and just give your phone one gigantic lick. Casey says that's a bad idea. And then Quentin in the side chat says, I didn't leave a Skeptic Mafia comment. Can you please insert one generic shilling here? I will definitely do that on this one. Plant your tongue on your phone and just go to town. Treat that phone like you're on a third date, and especially a hot girl. Well, hold on a second. Getting a phone. Yeah, I know. It's a bit. I'm doing a bit. I know. Some people are just that. Okay, fine. Love you too. Bye. So my lawyers are saying idiots are out there or actually look at their goddamn phones and want me to stop saying to lick your phone. So lick it even more. Blah. Coughs. Anyway, remember, Casey is almost always right. Well, no, Casey is always right, and tomatoes are goddamn delicious. That's right. And as for one generic shilling here, if you become a Skeptic Mafia member, not only do you get the peace of mind knowing that a portion of your Skeptic Mafia membership is going to be going to helping people with autism, but Also, you will, you get emojis in the side chat that you see people using all the time. You also get a meeting with me where, I guess we could talk about anything that you want to, which, speaking of meeting, for any of the Skeptic Mafia members that are in the chat tonight, we'll probably do a meeting probably around 5, I would say probably 5 p.m. Central Time tomorrow, because I know, I do believe that Deus Ex Tomato has a stream that goes on at like 8 or so we want to be done in time for that. But but plan on 5 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and that would be like 3 p.m. Pacific Time. And if you live in the mountain range, I don't know, do the math on it. I'll just leave you out to dry. There's just easy math right there. Anyways, let's get back to the main screen here. Oh, no stream tomorrow. Okay, awesome. Cool. Well, 5 p.m. Central, we'll be doing a Skeptic Mafia hangout. If you want to join up and join us tomorrow, that would be awesome. But other than that, I hope you guys have an awesome night. I know that I will, because we're going to go and we're going to watch something. Probably the Married at First Sight. We've been binge watching that, and I think we're going all the way back to the 3rd season. So, it's even more fucked up. 4th season. So we're going to go and see how that's going to work out. I feel like Americans will gamify anything. And in this case, it's gamifying arranged marriages. And it's a little weird, but it's also interesting at the same time. So anyways, hope you guys have an awesome night. I will see you heathens next week when we cover some more historical Jesus stuff, as well as probably something God related later on in the week. If you will, please smash that like button and subscribe if you like this kind of live stream. And I will see you heathens next week. Don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens.